to today's webinar. My name is Adam Golov, Marketing and Communications Manager at Data Conversion Laboratory, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know we will allow time at the end of the webinar for questions and answers. So please write your questions in the chat area as they come to mind. If we don't have time to answer them all, we'll make them available on our website. For those of you who are not familiar with DCL, we convert and organize content to create electronic documents, populate databases, publish on the web, and basically get it ready for tomorrow's technology. DCL services help you refine your document conversion strategy, identify document redundancy, extract metadata, and transform legacy and future documents for real needs, today and in the future. We serve a very broad client base spanning all industries. Today, we are thrilled to introduce Devorah Ashlam, who is a Senior Project Manager at DCL. She has been with DCL for over 15 years and manages multiple projects specializing in ebook and NLM conversion. She is proficient in numerous electronic publishing software packages, as well as DCL's proprietary hub and spoke conversion software. Prior to joining DCL, Ms. Ashlam was a programmer ebook coding expert in the Barnes & Noble's digital content division. Without further ado, welcome Devorah.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you all for joining. We're going over the results of our digital publishing survey data. We've been running this survey together with Bowker for the last 4 years. The topics we cover give us insight on the future plans for publishers and authors, the types of content they plan on publishing, the formats, and on the actual conversion. In the last 4 years, we've had 2,500 responders, with this year's survey giving us the highest response rate of over 1,000 responders. Next slide. So who are those responders? The highest category, at 51%, were print and digital authors. 17% were print-only authors, and 16% were small publishers. So majority of the respondents this year were authors themselves and ones who have published digitally in the past. Next slide. Comparing this to previous years, we've had a substantial jump in print-only authors and a decrease in digital-only authors. And I think that definitely plays a role on the impact of the results that we'll see coming up. Next slide. Have you published your book digitally in the past? 71% have responded yes, and 28% responded no. So almost 3/4 of the respondents already have experience with publishing to a digital format. Next slide. Do you plan to publish digitally in 2018? We see that 75% of the responders plan on publishing digitally, 18% are not sure, and 6% do not plan on publishing digitally in the upcoming year. Next slide. I found that doing a 4-year comparison on this question was very interesting. The yes category has gone consistently down from year to year. I think back in 2014, there was a lot more expectation for digital publishing, and we'll see this in the upcoming questions as well, but this shows us that at least in this market, print is not dead. This is actually corroborated by Bowker, who in a recent article noted that according to their 2016 ISBN sales, print books have gone up 11.2%, while ebook titles have gone down 3.2%. On the flip side, however, a 2017 Simba Medical Publishing Survey shows a 5.5% growth rate in electronic publishing, showing us that each market really needs to be assessed individually. The result of this survey was really the voice of the author, the small or the self-publisher. And this brings us to the next slide on the different genres. What kind of ebooks do you plan to publish? The fiction subcategory shows the strongest ebook plans coming in at 63%, nonfiction at almost 40%. The other category, which came in at 17%, consisted of a lot of children's books, 10% poetry and training information, 8% business-oriented content, 6% tech content, and 4% textbooks and cookbooks. Next slide. Comparing this to previous years, fiction ebooks have continued to rise and show themselves to be the best candidates for ebook publishing. In previous years, there were more plans for technical books, textbooks, business and training books to be published as ebooks, but we see a drop in all those categories. Perhaps because the ebook reading software and platforms aren't as supportive of this type of content, or because those types of books aren't as simple to convert automatically to a digital format. They require more human oversight, more hand-holding. Next slide. How have you previously distributed your ebook? We see a strong response with almost 81% distributing with Amazon, 51% on their own website, 48% at other online sellers, and 27% at bookstores and books in print. Next slide. Doing a 4-year comparison, we see that Amazon Kindle continues to hold the predominant market share and proves to be the best distribution channel for ebooks. We see that print book distribution has risen, showing again that print is not dead. People like the feel of a print book in their hands, and that isn't going away so fast. Next slide. What e-reader do you plan to convert to, or have you previously converted for? Similar to our previous question, we see that Kindle takes a strong lead in the market, coming in at 79%. The Apple iPad and the Barnes & Noble Nook come in at 46%, Kobo at 30%. 18% are not sure, showing that there's still confusion in the market about the different devices and formats. Next slide. What format do you plan to convert to, or have you previously converted to? We see very clearly that EPUB and Mobi are the predominant formats in the industry, with each coming in at close to 50%. Mobi is the Kindle format of choice, and EPUB is the universal standard for ebooks across the board. 36% are not sure, again showing confusion. 14% are interested in EPUB 3, which is the latest version of EPUB, which utilizes HTML5 and includes added support for other languages, audio, video, and interactivity. Next slide. Over the years, it's interesting that we haven't seen more interest in EPUB 3. Even though it's a more recent version, it hasn't been picked up by the masses, possibly because EPUB 3 support is still lacking across the platforms, and since we know that fiction and prose type of content is the highest category of ebooks, EPUB 3 isn't necessary for that type of content. It doesn't really add anything. Additionally, even when certain devices allow for embedding a video, like the Kindle tablets, Amazon only accepts those files from large publishers and not from authors who are trying to self-publish using their platform. You see that there hasn't been much interest in HTML5, and in fact, the interest has gone down drastically over the years in the market. I think people were more hopeful in its abilities than what actually panned out in its support. Some of the other responses included the PDF format as the ebook format that they're publishing to. Again, showing that even if we have authors that are going digital, they still want to stick with the print feel that you get from a PDF file. Next slide. What aspect of digital conversion are you most concerned about? 60% of responders indicated that retaining formatting is their biggest concern. 52% expressed quality as their main concern. 49% were worried about automated conversion. 33% are most concerned about cost. 29% complexity. 23% are worried about tables and graphics, and almost 10% had some other concerns. Some of those other concerns including protecting IP, which is a bigger concern in digital than in print. We see a clear lead in these responses in regard to the retaining of formatting. This is interesting since many publishers at earlier stages felt that the unique appearance of print isn't as important in digital, but we see that it really is a concern and that authors want to retain the unique print formatting in the digital version. Next slide. Over the years, cost of conversion has become less of a concern. People are willing to pay for a quality product. Similarly, the concern over converting tables and graphics have gone down as well, possibly due to the better support and conversion for those types of elements. The concerns about automated conversion reflect the need for better review for publication. Next slide. How important do you think editing and copy editing are for eBooks? We see here a maturation of the industry. There's a rising expectation of quality in eBooks, with an 87% responding that editing is as important for eBooks as it is for print books. Almost 10% think it's even more important than print, and only less than 2% think that it's less important than print. Next slide. How would you rate the quality of most eBooks that you have read? 41% of respondents have seen good quality eBooks, 23% responded as okay, 10% have seen excellent quality, and just 3% indicated poor quality. It's actually pretty interesting that 23% of respondents don't read eBooks at all. Next slide. Looking over the years, we see that the quality of eBooks have risen overall, again showing the maturation of the industry and an overall rising expectation for ebook quality. Next slide. In your opinion, does quality affect ebook sales? We see an overwhelming response at 68% that yes, readers want the best quality possible. We know this is true. We had a recent customer who had a print book that had been selling on Amazon with a 5-star rating for years. He decided to self-publish his book digitally and using the automated conversion tool to do that. His book had a lot of tables, images, even equations, which unfortunately didn't convert very well using those automated tools. After just a couple of weeks, he started getting bad reviews, bringing the overall rating of his work down very fast, and that had nothing to do with the actual content of his book at all. Readers really do expect high-quality ebooks, and when they don't get it, they aren't shy to voice their opinions. Next slide. How are you most likely to ensure your content is error-free? 40% will hire an editor, 33% will check it themselves, 15% will have quality checks done prior to conversion to make sure that it will go through properly, and 12% had other responses. They either weren't sure or not planning conversion at all. Next slide. How will you convert your content? 45% are going to convert it themselves, 19% will hire a conversion company, 13% will hire a consultant, 9% have in-house conversion being done, and 2% have a specific conversion firm that they use. Next slide. In conclusion, this survey was most representative of authors and smaller publishers, and in this market, print is clearly not dead. Authors want to retain the unique print formatting in the digital version. Amazon and Kindle continue to hold the predominant market share and distribution. EPUB and Mobi are the predominant ebook formats, and quality of ebooks is a high priority. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Devorah, a very informative webinar. We have several questions that have been submitted, with the first one being, there have been concerns about the accuracy of automated conversion. How accurate can they be?
So automated conversion it's gotten a bad reputation because it's often not done well. But the truth is that, we always recommend a combination of tools. You use the automated conversion, but you also make sure that you have human oversight. You have, some tweaking and hand-holding that, some quality control that you can use along with it. And if you do that, then it could be a lot better than if somebody tries to do it on their own without any tools.
Great. Thank you, Devorah. The next question has come in is, you noted low rates of ebook growth. But I know that in fields like law, almost everything is electronic.
That's true. It's generally field by field. In law, in medical materials, those are also tipping toward electronic. But the surprising results of this survey is that when it comes to fiction and trade books, people still enjoy reading from print. Nevertheless, I don't want to, mislead here, because the results of the survey also show that 75% of the respondents do plan on publishing digitally. That's a high number. It just happens to be down consistently since 2014, but that might just be a reflection of the maturity in the market.
Thank you, Devorah. A follow-up question is, then what do you attribute the slowdown of ebook growth to?
I think it's partly a natural slowdown. I think that we may have thought that at the beginning digital was going to take over books, but I think it's more like coexisting, because readers really want to take in content in a variety of ways. In fact, some publishers, when you buy a hard copy book, they offer the digital along, at a cheaper rate, with understanding that readers really, might want both options, even for the same book. In different circumstances, they may want the print when they're home, but when they're traveling, they may want the digital.
Thank you, Devorah. The next question has come in is, if you convert to EPUB, is the conversion to mobile, etc., automatic?
So there are tools, and Amazon provides a tool that takes an EPUB file and converts it automatically to Mobi or their Amazon format. And in general, it's great. A lot of people do submit EPUB files to Amazon as opposed to submitting the Mobi format. And I think you really have to kind of know your content, because there is some formatting that when you have it in an EPUB file and it looks one way, and then you convert it and you use the automated converter to Mobi, it may look a little bit different because of the way the Kindle or Amazon platform displays that content. So if you know for sure that you're going to be going, and distributing to Amazon, we always recommend specifically converting to Mobi as opposed to EPUB, because there are certain things that you may need to do in that EPUB file or that Mobi file that will work a certain way on the Kindle platform. And in fact, the Kindle platform the Kindle software on the different platforms actually could render differently. Comes to mind an example. We recently were working on a book that had a lot of Hebrew characters. Now, Hebrew, for those who don't know, we don't read it from left to right, we read from right to left. Now, there is a way to process that, and using EPUB 3, there's a way to handle that, and the devices generally handle it. Now, we were working on this book, and we got it to work. It was looking great on the Kindle device. And then one of our readers was looking at it, and they were looking at the Kindle file on an iPad. They were using the Kindle for iOS platform, and they noticed that any Hebrew word that had more than 6 letters, it was coming up backwards. Now, it was the same file that they were looking at on 2 different platforms. On one, it was looking okay, and on the other, it wasn't. So we figured out a hack to get around that, but that may or may not always be possible. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that if we always recommend converting, if you know the specific device that you're going to be distributing to and what your readers are going to be looking at your files at, we always recommend specifically, trying to get the file to be specific for that. It's sometimes not possible. You don't really know who your customers are going to be, but with Amazon, it's easier because you kind of know if they're buying it from Amazon, they're going to be using it on the Amazon platform on the different devices.
Thank you, Devorah. The last question that has come in is, what about tables and math? Is it reasonable to do it in an ebook?
Yes, it's definitely reasonable. It takes a little bit more hand holding, and it takes, sometimes it takes a little bit more tweaking, and the automated tools that are out there, which a lot of them are really great, they don't always handle elements like that, tables and math, to be, in the best way. Math specifically, the best way to handle math is using MathML, and that is supported using EPUB 3, but again, that isn't always supported on the devices. So you may need to capture them as images, as an alternative. And I don't believe that there are any automated tools that can do that for you. But definitely, if you're doing it by yourself, the main thing we always say is just to test and retest and retest. Keep on bringing it up, look at it on the devices, look at it on the different platforms to make sure that it's going to render the way you want it once it's in the reader's hands.
Great. Thank you, Devora. And thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. This will conclude today's broadcast. You'll be able to access the recorded version of this webinar in the webinar archive section of our website, located at www.dclab.com. Also, our next webinar will be Thursday, November 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, titled Clean and Complete Metadata, a main ingredient to the positive customer experience recipe, being presented by Alan J. Porter, Senior Customer Experience Evangelist, OpenText, and Brian Trumley, National Sales Director of DCL. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and have a great day.